guys, welcome back to my channel and to a brand new video. Today we have my June reading wrap up. God, that was a mouthful. I don't know if you can see from here, I can't, but I do have I have like what do you call these? I don't know, something around my mouth. I'm allergic to pineapple and I won't stop eating pineapples. So I do have a bit of an allergic reaction around my mouth. I don't think you can see it. But I want to mention it before you all think that I've got like something weird going on with my mouth. I'm not going to stop eating pineapple, so it's what I deserve. I read a total of 15 books in June, which is pretty average, but I'm not going to be reviewing my romance novella reads like usual. I just have nothing really to say about them. They're all pretty similar. So if you want to see them, you can always follow my Goodreads and see them as I read them. But let's move on to the books that I read this month. I actually only have 4 physical books. The rest are on my Kindle, so this is going to be an interesting and heavily edited one. I also normally work backwards, but I'm not going to this month. I'm going to do it in the chronological order that I read them, simply because I pretty much remember most of my reads this month. What a surprise. First up, we have Frontera by Giulio Anta and Jacoby Salcedo. This is a graphic novel. It does come in full colour. Looks like this. Stunning. I want to get a finished copy because obviously I read it in mostly black and white. This follows Mateo as he leaves his parents in Mexico and attempts to illegally cross the border to get to the US. And you follow his story as he's hunted down by like border control and things. And you see the story of past immigrants attempting the same journey. I can't really say too much about this one at all because I don't want to spoil anything, but I think I can say that he meets a ghost. Yes, I can. Guimero, I think his name is. He meets Guimero along the way, who is a ghost who helps people find their way through the desert when he previously didn't make it. So yeah, this was such a short, thought-provoking, heart-wrenching story that I really, really enjoyed. And I think, obviously, I don't understand the day-to-day struggles of being an immigrant. I don't live in the US, so I don't really understand the whole border control situation. I get it, like I understand it, but I've never had experience of it. So I think it was really, really important for me to read a book about it, and also from the perspective that I would never feel or have experience of before. And I did feel really, really connected with Mateo. I felt really, really kind of sickened by the whole story of all these families and what's happened to them and how they're hunted down. And there was some brilliant quote in here about how the earth has existed long before border control. And obviously it was said much more profound in the book. But yeah, it was basically talking about how can we have border control when it's not our land? Like, we didn't make this, we're just on it. And all of a sudden people want to control where other people want to go. And it's like, well, no, people existed long before border control. We can just go wherever we want. And I totally agree. I totally agree that that's how it should be. I don't understand it. And yeah, it was a really, really lovely book. I think it's really important for people of all ages pretty much to read this. And I will be passing this copy on to my sisters and my brother when I get my finished copy, because I think it's really important, especially for my really young sister, to understand these topics from own voices instead of hearing stuff on the news which is biased and things. So yeah, if you have, number one, if you should read this book, but also if you have any young children in your life, maybe in their teens or something, that could really do with understanding things that they wouldn't normally understand, I would definitely recommend this. I think it was really easy to consume. I think it was told in a really accessible way, but in a really well done way that still made you think about everything. Sorry, I didn't say, I gave this 4 stars. Next, I read 4 Seasons in Japan by Nick Bradley. I initially read this for an ARC reading vlog that I'm not sure you'll ever see. I also read this for an ARC reading vlog that I don't think you'll ever see because I can't find my footage. I don't know what happened, but I can't find my footage anywhere, so we'll see if you ever see that. But if you do, I talk about it in more detail there. So this story is quite like multi-layered and complex. First of all, we follow Flo, who you kind of see her, she's just broken up with her girlfriend. She's kind of in a place in life where she doesn't know what she's doing, where she's going. Everything just feels a little bit pointless. And one day she's riding the subway in Tokyo and she comes across this book that is left on the seats. Then we follow, which you assume to be inside of the book, Yako and Kaio in the town of Amici, and you kind of just follow them in their lives. Kaio is a Yoko's grandson and his father killed himself So he's kind of struggling with that fact, even though they were estranged, and he's also estranged from his grandmother. Obviously it's still a hard thing to face. So moving to the town where his dad grew up is kind of bringing forth a lot of feelings. His grandmother is a really harsh person, and she has to do a lot of growth to see where she went wrong in the father's life. It's just such a slow story that a lot of people won't like. I think for a start I should probably mention it's more of like a character study that I think a lot of people will be like, I don't understand the point of the story. But I loved it, and you kind of flick between these two just living their lives and growing as people, and then back to Flo as she's a translator and she translates books, and she's trying to hunt down the author of Ayako and Kaio to get the rights to translate this book. I was on track to give this a 5-star until the end. I didn't understand the ending. I think it was quite rushed and a little bit complex. I was like, I don't understand. So that was a bit of a disappointment. So I did give it 4 overall, but it was such a good story throughout. It was so beautiful, and it really like got me in the feels, and I really enjoyed it. This is the second book I've read from Nick Bradley, because I also read The Cat in the City, and I think that was very similar in the way that he like tells people's stories as characters, and they come to life so well. They feel really 3D. They feel very well-rounded. I feel like I got a lot of story of them. I definitely think they were real. Like, you can't convince me they're not based off real people, because it was too well told for it not to be. Like, I really enjoyed it. It was just the end that kind of not ruined it, but like kind of spoiled the experience overall. But I did really enjoy this, and I would recommend it. Just maybe be prepared to take the ending slow, because I was like, what the hell is happening? Then I read The Cairo Haunt by Darcy Coates, and I read this as a buddy read with Connor and Jade. This book follows Remy, who does tours of the Cairo house because it is claimed to be haunted, and so she's very accustomed to the house. She knows its ins and outs, she knows its horrific backstory. Then one day she's giving a tour, and there's this very interesting man who, after the tour, asks her for, provides her an opportunity. He would like to stay at the house and make a documentary, I think it was, with a group of people. And she's kind of in and ahhing, but it's a really good amount of money. And so you follow this group of people who are all from different things. One's like a paranormal YouTuber, the other one's the owner of the house, and she's like 16 and she's obsessed with paranormal, and her parents bought her this house. Then her nanny, I don't know, it's a lot of different people, and it's kind of like a mystery as to why the guy wanted to film this documentary when he knows nothing about the paranormal. And also people start to kind of die, is all I'll say about that. They go missing or they die, and they realise that haunting things are happening. I gave this a 3-star. I think Connor gave it 4, but he thought it was just okay. Jade gave it a 2, I gave it a 3. So it was kind of a wide varying assortment of ratings. It wasn't my favourite Darcy Coates. I think it started a little bit too abruptly. I always feel like Darcy has a really good way of leaning into a story, and I didn't feel it in this one. I didn't think that it happened naturally with the characters. Like, they didn't feel like real people. Whereas again, with Darcy Coates books, I feel like I'm always really connected to the characters. So to not be in this one was kind of like, oh, okay, I'm very disappointed. Like, I don't even remember Remy's name, whereas I remember every other character she's written quite well, which is very rare for me, to be honest. But yeah, then I felt like the twist at the end, the thing that happened, I was like, why would you do that? That made the whole book kind of pointless. I didn't care for the actual ghost part. Like, it wasn't scary. It was a lot of seances, which I think for me personally, somebody searching for the paranormal isn't scary because you know what's coming. I really like her books where somebody moves in unexpecting to a house and is suddenly being haunted, and they're like, oh my god, what's happening? That's much more my cup of tea. So I'm not saying this is a bad book by any means. I think it's very well written, as all of her books that I have read so far are. But as an overall, compared to her other books, this is definitely not one I love. And I don't think it's one I want to physically add to my collection or reread. Who knows? Next, I read Scandalized by Ivy Owens. I went in with absolutely zero expectations of this because I hate books about famous people. And the guy Alec in this is famous. And we follow Georgia, who's a reporter. She's on a flight coming back from a reporting gig, and she meets her childhood best friend's brother, and they sleep together that night because they have nothing else to do. She's always had a crush on him. They're waiting for a delayed flight, and apparently that's how we pass time now. And then the next day she realizes he's very famous, and she's like, oh, great. And she feels a bit betrayed and lied to, but it's fine, they move on. Then all of a sudden, what happens? How do they get back in contact? Nothing. They just end up keeping back in contact and trying to navigate a relationship. But there's a darker tone to this than I ever would have expected. So Georgia is journaling or reporting on a club where women are being drugged and raped. And it's being filmed. And so she is trying to like prove this to shut the club down. Not something that's talked about at all in the synopsis, and something that I think was like very shocking when I started reading it. And I was like, oh my god, I was just here for a light fluffy romance. So please be aware of that before you go in. I think it was so well written, which makes sense to me now, because I was like, oh, I don't know who Ivy Owens is. Like, I think this is a debut, this is amazing. But it's actually Lauren from Christina Lauren. So obviously they have a lot of experience writing. It makes sense now. So yeah, the writing is so good in this. I was really, really impressed. I had a brilliant time with it. Like, I read it all in one sitting. It was so easy to read. It made my mood happy. But I think overall I'm going to give it like a 3.5. But I'm going to round it up to a 4-star on Goodreads. The only downsides I have to this was sometimes I felt like certain scenes were a little bit rushed and could have done with a little bit more development. And at the end, it definitely needed another 50 pages, I'd say, to really well round it off, because it was so rushed and I kind of felt a bit like whiplash. And I didn't understand the third act drama. But overall, I mean, I understood it, but I would have done something different. But yeah, overall, it was a really fun time. I definitely feel like if you have an opportunity to read this, you should, but I wouldn't like go out and run and grab it. Do you know what I mean? And also to be aware that it has a darker theme that no one really talks about. That I've heard anyway. Next, I read When the Demons Take Hold by Lauren Carter. This is a short horror story. We basically follow a writer who has writer's block, and so rents out this writing retreat in a house, and is with 5 other writers in order to overcome the writer's block. So she makes her journey there, and I was kind of like, this feels very isolated. And then once you get there, instantly the horror begins. It's a very quick, fast-paced story. The 5 characters, you like, there's some that you hate and some that you love, but you grow really connected to them all. Reese was my favourite character, and I love him with my whole heart. Also, if you decide to read this, Lauren has a lot of character art on her social medias, and they look really, really good, so I would definitely recommend. I don't want to say too much about this again, because the synopsis doesn't give much away. It's one of those books that you kind of want to go in completely, like, not knowing anything. It's just creepy, it's scary. The end had me shook to my core. I was like, what? Oh my god, there was like this reveal that was amazing, and then it was so creepy and horrific, and I felt really like, oh, there's a bit of body horror. So good. I really, really enjoyed this. 5 stars. Amazing horror writer, and I love this cover. So yeah, very, very excited about this one. Cannot wait to reread. Definitely like an open end. Don't know what would happen next. You get to make your own story. Really, really enjoy this. Fabulous. Definitely recommend. Next, I read They Drown Our Daughters by Katrina Munro. I had such high hopes for this one. We follow so many characters in this. It's based in this place called Cape Disappointment. It's like a curse on the family where all of the mothers go missing to the sea, or die to the sea, I guess. And you're following a long timeline of characters. Here they are. You go through them all, and you see the curse taking over them. Our main character, Meredith, comes back after a divorce to her wife with her daughter to visit her mum, Judith, who they don't really get along very well because Meredith's like upbringing was kind of strange. So I can't really explain it. The thing I found most jarring about this, I didn't really like it. I gave it a 2 stars. The concept's great, but the problem is you follow all those characters I just showed you, but you also jump between their perspectives, and they're different ages. One minute they're a child, next minute they're a mum, next minute they're a grandmother, then they're a child. And I found it so jarring. I couldn't keep on top of what was going on. I appreciate the concept. I also didn't like the reveal very much, because I don't really understand it. I understood it, but I was like, where did that come from? Why? Yeah, I don't know. And by the end, I was kind of over it. It was too long for what it was. It was too slowly paced. But I think the idea is really, really good. And I really like the writing style if it was just sped up a little bit. And I know that Katrina Munro has a new book coming out that I'm definitely interested in reading. Something about graveyards. I'm intrigued about reading that, but this one was not for me, personally. Next, I read the Find Me series by Ashley Rostek. This is the first 3 books in the Winsteck series. So we have Find Me, Save Me, and Love Me. These were a complete surprise, and I thoroughly enjoyed them. I'm just going to say now, I gave them all 5 stars. Now, I cannot remember the name of the main character, which is not ideal, and it doesn't say in the synopsis. But we follow a girl who has a stalker, and this stalker has murdered her family. So she is the only one left with her uncle Logan. And she has to go into witness protection because the stalker is still on the loose hunting for her. And obviously now she is alone in the world, which is really, really sad. And she moves into this house that she's purchased, and she lives alone. Her uncle Logan is out searching for the stalker. You know, he's like part of like the army or something, I don't know. And he's hunting for the stalker, so that our main character can live her life calmly and like without constant fear. But the house she moves into, she moves next door to 4 brothers. Oh, yeah. These 4 brothers are everything. It is a reverse harem story, but this has a lot of plot. This isn't like one of those reverse harems where it's like smut, no plot. There's a little bit of smut, don't get me wrong, but it is mostly plot, I'd say, and like dark as well, because the stalker murder thing, she has a lot of PTSD. She has a lot of other bad things happen to her that aren't just the stalker. Like, she just has a long train of bad luck. But these 4 boys, she's in her final year of school, so if you don't like that, not for you, because obviously I know that annoys some people, but she's in her final year of school with the 2 twins of the boys, and she like starts falling for one of them. Then the other one kisses her as well, and she's like, oh my god, what am I gonna do? And then they all end up going, and there's one older brother, Knox, who's like this grumpy man, and he's like, no, I don't want to ruin my like relationship. I'm like in charge of my brothers, and if this all goes to pot, and I don't know, it's just, it was so good. I mean, I never give like so many books 5 stars, but I read them all in one night. I was obsessed. I literally picked them up at midnight. Picked the first one up at midnight. It's been on my Kindle for absolutely ages. I was like, yeah, let's just have a couple of pages before bed. When I finished the 3rd book and I was clicking on the 4th, like, why aren't you downloading? Download. It was like failed, just to find out it was on pre-order and it doesn't even exist yet. No, it doesn't come out till August 31st. And that was me at like 4 a.m. like, where's the book? Someone give me the book. They're all about 275 pages, so you fly through them so quickly, but they're all so jam-packed with stuff, I guess. Like, I don't want scary stuff, fun stuff, romance stuff. I think his name's Keelan. He is my favourite character of all time. He's my new favourite man crush. He's beautiful. I'm just fantasizing about him. It was just such a surprising series for me. I really, really enjoyed it. I love reverse harems. If you're not into reverse harems, you won't like it. If you don't like a dark theme in your romances, you probably won't like it. But so far, I've been recommending it to everyone. I want everyone to read it. I'm having the best time with it. And yeah, so good. And August 31st, I will not be interrupted. I'm busy. I'm reading. Next, I read The 6 Deaths of the Saint. This is by Alex E. Harrow. I should start off by saying I didn't know how long this was. It's 30 pages. I had no idea. I saw all these people recommending it on TikTok and I was like, okay, it's on Kindle Unlimited. I'm going to give it a go. It's 30 pages. But it packs such a punch in those 30 pages. We follow the Saint of War as I can't even say anything about it because it's 30 pages, everything's a spoiler. But she basically becomes a war piece, a war tool for the prince. And I cannot say anything more. I can't. If you have Kindle Unlimited, pick this up and just try reading it, because it took me 20 minutes. Like, it took me less than that. It's repetitive, but it's supposed to be. So I was a bit like, but you'll see why when you read it, why it was like that. I don't really like either Alex E. Harrow's writing. I've tried reading her books before and I did not like it. Because this one was so short, she didn't have time to be as flowery as she always is in her books. So you don't have to worry about her overly flowery writing if that's not for you, which it's definitely not for me. I can't say anything more, but it is it's a bittersweet, sad story with hope and cuteness, I guess. Yeah, this is a really hard book to explain. Normally I wouldn't talk about such a short book, but I felt I have to because I was really surprised by how much of a punch it landed. I gave it 4 stars and I really enjoyed it. Then I read Haunting Adeline and Hunting Adeline, the cat and mouse duet by H.D. Colton. And I did do a whole reading vlog. It actually went live about 30 minutes ago, so I will link it up there for you. It's completely spoiler filled though, be warned, and I cry in it. Haunting Adeline, first of all, was very fun for the first, well, not for the first half, for one half of the book. There's like 2 sides to the book. So let's just start with what the book's about before I get overwhelmed. Addie has moved into her grandmother's house that she has inherited. It is a haunted house, and that is just a known fact. There's nothing about it, it's just haunted, which is so cool. Amazing. First of all, you find letters from her great-great-grandmother, like a journal, or just her great-grandmother. And so you've kind of got a mystery with her great-grandmother who had a stalker. And now Addie has a stalker called Zaid. And Zaid is a full-on stalker. And I think I was really jarred by this fact because I had just read Find Me, where this stalker had murdered her entire family and her twin. I was like not on board with the stalkering moment, but I was trying to get on board with Zaid because he's supposed to be the love interest. Zaid is a good guy. He's a vigilante. He is a bad guy who kills and tortures people, but he's killing and torturing people who are involved with child trafficking. So, I mean, yeah, vigilante. It's like Batman. Good guy, but does bad things, but for the good cause. I could get on board with that. I was fine with that. My issue was that to get into these scenarios with the child trafficking people, he had to pretend to be someone he was not. And he got so into this character that I felt icky. And there was things like if he came across a video of something bad happening to someone, he would force himself to watch it because he feels like if you don't watch it, you can easily forget about it. And then he wouldn't try as hard to do things. I get the sentiment, but if I had been filmed unknowingly that thing happening to me, I would not want to be degraded any more by somebody watching that when they didn't have to. No matter how he felt about it, don't watch it. It's weird. Like, he's already trying to do things to fix it, so why do you need to watch it? So I was like, that's weird. I was like, that's just odd. I just didn't love the character. I gave it 3 stars because I enjoyed it, and I enjoyed like the grandmother's side of things and the haunted house. I quite enjoyed a lot of it. I really liked Addie as a person. Then we got on to Hunting Adeline. Obviously I can't tell you much about this book because it's the sequel. But let's just say, yeah, the first book had dark stuff in it because child trafficking. The second book took drugs and went for it because I'm not being funny. It was a shipwreck. It was well written. H.D. Colton is a very good writer. I was horrified. The things that happened in this book were some of the most horrific things. I'll just say that, for trigger warning, for graphic rape scenes. Graphic. And not just 1, not just 2, not just 3, not just 4, like endless, for 50% of this book. At like 48%, it gets better. Like as in like there's less of those. But then you have the PTSD of that. So I'm not being funny. It was traumatizing on all accounts. The first book, I'd really invested myself in these characters, especially Addie. And the fact that you connected with characters made it worse to read about said characters going through hard things. So, no, I didn't like it. I gave it 1 star. But if this is your thing, fair enough. Like, I know for a lot of people, like, you don't mind reading about those things. Some people even want to read about those things. Have a good time. Not for me. Not at all. Don't like it one bit. And again, I think I really struggled with reading about a stalker romance simply because I'd just read a series with such a brutal stalker in it. So yeah, I want to move on from this. It was really hard to read and I didn't like it. I did read more books, but again, they were romance novellas that I just don't want to get into because they're all very similar and I don't know what I'd say about them other than, yeah, they're just smut, no plot. So, if you want to see those again, head over to my Goodreads. This was the shortest wrap-up I have ever filmed. Go me, I'm so proud of myself. I hope I gave enough details on these books. Sorry if I didn't. Let me know if you've read any of these books, what your thoughts were, if there are any books that you think I'd like based on these books. Let me know. I always love recommendations. And let me know if you read the freebie series because I need to talk to someone about this so bad. I need someone to love them the way I love them. So yeah, let me know. Please someone read it. And I hope you have a fabulous morning, night, weekend, wherever you are. And I shall see you in the next one. Bye.